I know. That should be funny to you, because that's how I started off a few of these. That I know, and because I've been there, and now I know that you know, because this is part 5 of the series on suicide. And I don't know what the subtitle it's going to be. It's going to be something like From Unbearable Pain and Suffering to Enlightenment. Yeah, because remember how we start out saying that the greatest trauma and stress and suffering can lead to the greatest growth. And then I mentioned how great teachers and saints and Jesus in the desert and the Buddha, probably Muhammad, I don't know, but many of the friends, many of the people that I know that are great people have been down to the bottom, and some reach a little deeper into the bottom, but when you go through that pain and suffering and you have the greatest potential for growth. And so that's what this series has been about. So if you've made it through this far, this is graduation day for you for sure, because yeah, you need some rewards. You know, it gets the serotonin going in the brain and stuff like that. So anyway, thank you for all my humor, sticking with me and going through this, because if you've gotten this far, you're probably well on the way to great growth. And with the tools and skills that you've learned in this series, it leads to enlightenment, especially what we're going to learn today. Well, added on to what we've already learned. You know, that first little mystical, esoteric look into my right eye, and I'm sending you energy, and then I sort of gave instructions on how to circulate and amplify that energy. That's deep. And very, very powerful. It's actually very advanced. And the other tools and skills that we learned they all work together, you know. So make that first one ever better. And now today we're going to learn 2 more very important, guaranteed. There are no guarantees. But, you know, it's like we talked about the antidote. All these things are the antidote to pain and suffering. But antidotes, you know, you have to take the antidote for it to work. And in context here, you have to do these, do it and use these tools and skills that we're learning here to outweigh the pain and suffering and allow you to get strong to go through it. And to be honest, that's really a wonderful thing. So this isn't just for people, you know, who are thinking of committing suicide. You know, it's also for very depressed people, because you got to lighten up when you listen to me. I mean, I'm never mind. I was just say I'm funny, but looks aren't everything. But, you know, I try to be humorous to break you loose, you know. And put a bookmark in your mind for these highlights at these tools, so you can always go back to circulating that deep energy. So when you're at a deep point, put a bookmark in your mind that will immediately get you back there. But you have to practice these things. I'm going to sneeze. We're going to learn 2 very important things. We've already learned a lot, and I'll review real quickly the techniques that we've learned. But remember that. So the first one was that amplification of the good energy I'm sending you, and then you do it on yourself. Because you're generating that energy, and you learn how to circulate and amplify that energy. And then with all the other things, the techniques that we've learned, it all gets better. and because you're deepening your level of consciousness, and that's what gets you strong, more aware, clear. And then these things, this pain and suffering doesn't overshadow you, and, well, could completely overshadow you, but not if you're strong. And that's what you're learning here are these skills. So we're going to learn two very important things. That eye movement, some breath thing that we already learned balances off the brain energy. And now we got to go to two things that balance off the energy in the nervous system. And two very, very powerful things. But that's not all these things do. You know, there's depth to everything that I'm teaching here. And sure, it starts off very simple, and it stays simple, but as you take it deeper through practicing these things, they're more all-encompassing and more powerful. So the first one of the new tools that we're going to learn today that deal with the nervous system is how to balance off the sympathetic and the parasympathetic nervous systems. And you don't have to know what they mean, but again, when they get off balance, you're at war. And you can feed the imbalance, like feeding the bad wolf, or here's how to feed the good wolf in this instance here of balancing. So we're dealing a lot with the breath here. That's what that first eye movement, some breath. You know, it's a long, slow, steady breath, and this is a harmonizing, peaceful, balancing, and oxygenating exercise. And it's from yoga. The Sanskrit term is sukha pranayama. Sukha means peace, and this makes you peaceful. So this is feeding the good wolf of peace. So what it is, it's the breath again. And you inhale, you close off one nostril, say with the thumb first, then you inhale through the other nostril. And the crossover is at the top, so you close off the other and exhale. Full, long, slow. And then you inhale through that same nostril. Crossover at the top. Exhale. Inhale. So it's a long, slow, silent breath. And that made my nose itch. So that will first of all balance off the energies of your sympathetic and your parasympathetic nervous system, which brings you at peace and open. It gets you strong, so you're not stuck anywhere. So do that, you know, as long as you like. 5 minutes is enough, and it's very calming and peaceful. And then another very powerful technique deals with the vagus nerve, because when you stimulate the vagus nerve, you get a feeling of a sense of peace and euphoria. And but this is a little different. All that we've been doing is meditation based. You know, the real meditation is doing nothing and just sitting there in your non-dual presence. But to get to that point, we need some tools in meditation, or a method, and all that method then is to gone beyond and just be in that state of awareness and clarity. So meditation, you know, there are different kinds of meditation, and prayer is a form of meditation. And prayer is, well, most readily said as talking to God. And then you take that deeper and you listen to God, And then the deepest level of prayer and meditation is communion with God, or a oneness with God. And some people have a problem with the term God. Call it anything that you want, Allah, the Great Spirit. If you're an atheist, just tune in to that very highest power, thought. Because really, this prayer that we're going to learn a certain way to do it, which is very, very, very powerful, this prayer will take you to that level of communion. And it doesn't have anything to do with what you're thinking, because you just repeat it and the vibrations, and you take that thinking to a deeper level. Now, the prayer is, and you know, of all these things that we've been learning, maybe they're not for everybody, and maybe this one of prayer. But listen to the prayer. I'm just going to say it, and then I'm going to show you how to do it to stimulate the vagus nerve, which makes it more powerful. And there are subtleties to all these techniques, and we're just with the starting, even more superficial, we could call it, levels of these techniques. So the prayer is, I am in the light of God, and invoke the wisdom, love, and power of God to flow in me, with me, and through me right now. And then you can repeat it 3 times, and I do it silently inside of myself. And I start with actually making a little bit of a chant on it, but with your mouth closed, so it's sort of a hum, but in the hum, you're inside of yourself, you're saying the words. So you have to take a real deep, full inhalation, and then as you're exhaling, you hum, and you hum them, but you're saying with the mechanics of your mouth. I'll do it out loud to make it more obvious. I mean, I'll say them. I am in the light of God, and invoke the wisdom, love, and power of God to flow in me, with me, and through me right now. Now, when you do that with your mouth closed, it resonates throughout your brain, the ventricles in the brain, through all this area here. There is a great resonance that builds, and that resonance stimulates the vagus nerve. And like the instructions for all these things, really be there with it in the moment when you're doing it. Be in the moment with what you're doing. So when you're doing the eye movements and the breath, there's nothing to think about. You just do the eye movements and the breath. And like this one, you just do it, and you be there totally in the moment with it. And it's like the breathing exercise that balances off the sympathetic and parasympathetic nervous system. You just be there in the moment with it, so that's a form of focusing. So you're focusing on it, effortlessness, focusing with awareness. That strength of awareness makes it effortless. And at first it might not be effortless, but the more you do it, that's how you learn all these things, is by doing it. Okay, so we've learned 2 powerful techniques. You know, I don't want to make this too long, but the instructions are there, so you can back it up and watch it again. And so that humming with it is very, very powerful. The hum, all these things get more powerful and deeper, where you have more awareness and clarity and strength, and then you're outweighing the pain and suffering, you know, because if you don't have the skills and tools to outweigh the pain and suffering, well, that's when suicide happens. And there are different levels of that. So when you do the eye movements and the breath and all these things too, remember I talked about the amygdala, you know, right in here in the brain, both in the left and right side in the limbic system, where when you're in that stress response or overcome by things, the amygdala stays on. And now with doing these exercises, especially that first eye movement and breath exercise, and then all this other balancing, but with that first eye movements and breath exercise, you're balancing off your brain energies, and all problems is and suffering and pain is because energy is off balance. So now we're bringing the energy back into balance by focusing, and when we're right there with it, focusing on these exercises, our level of consciousness deepens, we become strong, and so anyway, what you might think, what does this have to do with Zen? Prayer, pranayama. That prayer, let me just relate the prayer, which I hope you take to a deep meditation. And by the humming, you stimulate the subtle vibrations in your brain and the vagus nerve. And don't underestimate how powerful that is, or how powerful it can be. When you practice it, remember the antidote? You got to take the antidote. Okay, there I am being funny again. So, practice these things, get strong, and when you learn these things, you can go from that unbearable pain and suffering to enlightenment, and that's how it relates to Zen. Is I am in the light of God, and I invoke the wisdom, love, and power of God to flow in me, with me, and through me right now. Now, what's more powerful than that? Because, you know, people, getting back to God, you know, that term God. What God is to me, you know, people throw that term out, God, and people aren't really clear on what they mean by that, or it's beyond meaning, which I think, and beyond thought and concept. But from this practice, you get the idea that it is the one power, that there is only that one power. And remember how I talked about the tears in the fabric of your being? I think it was on number 3 or 4 of this series. It was in number 1, that the problem starts when something goes wrong in the environment, and we're young and we're weak and we don't know how to really experience that, so that tear becomes whole. So we're still in that tear and that gap. And that gap is separation, it's weakness, it's we become fearful, and that's how the problems start. But how some of these very first tools that we're learning is how to heal that tear by experiencing it fully. And the balancing out of the brain energies by the eyes going to the 8 directions, the one long steady breath, and the breath is a circular breath, a deep, slow, steady breath, and then we balance off the brain energies, and we ground and center that energy. We're grounded and centered. The amygdala then shuts down, or normalizes. I shouldn't say it shuts down. It normalizes, but through all these years of unrecovered stress and trauma, the amygdala stays on, and it gets worse and worse and worse, and then that's where the unbearable pain and suffering comes in, that you want to find relief. And so these tools and exercises that we're learning is the real relief from pain and suffering. And I know I've said all these things before. Remember the spider and fly thing? So I'm sort of wrapping this up and overviewing and reviewing a little bit. The spider and the fly, you know, you can make a game out of it just by yourself or with your friends, and do find some friends too, because friends are so important, loved ones. Find a sense of purpose in your life. Find a sense of purpose of relieving the pain and suffering of other people and bringing peace to the world. That could be really a great purpose. And so anyway, I'm just going on and on. Thank you for sitting through these videos. And I'm sure that if you've gotten through all these 5 parts of the suicide series, and if you've practiced them, that you're not only okay, but you're probably on that road to enlightenment. So thank you very much. And like I always say, ending when I talk to friends, and yes, you're my friend now if you've been with me through all these 5 videos. Amo ergo sum. I love, therefore I am.